Hey everyone. So, continuing our discussion about suffering, we're looking now really closely at suffering as a portal out of an imagined idea of self and other, or suffering as a bullet train into that idea of self and other, and into the film, into the whole concept. And we're going to look at what's going on, what's happening. Why is sometimes well, I guess what happens when suffering is essentially the exit route, and what happens when it's taking us deeper in. And it seems to be, and again, let's be careful, it's tricky with the language, but it can, I know it can look like it's something that the self can do, but it has to be a realization of what suffering is saying in that moment, and the desire to fix it. Because when there's suffering, and when all there is that desire to get away from it, to just not have it anymore, would direct all the attention, all the activity is directed into this apparent reality. And within that, there are, it looks to be that there are ways to relieve the suffering. So there's numbing, through whatever, alcohol or drugs or sex or food, whatever, or there's distractions, TV, internet, exercise, job, whatever. There's things to get that would stop the suffering. So if the suffering is one of lack of worth, lack of value, then it looks like more attention, more approval, more reinforcement will do it. So there's the suffering sending us directly in there to fix it is what's happening then is that there is no question of what's going on. There's no doubt. There's nothing other happening in that moment, it appears, than a self that feels insecure, that can find a way to get rid of it, of that insecurity. And then there's moments when, and it will be because of what's this conversation, played out with different teachers, different videos, different things that people see. It is the conditioning of the mind, really, that's shifting to loosen the grip on a whole believed concept that has to be maintained. And so, according to those shifts, there will be times when suffering arises and there just isn't that blinding desire to get rid of it. There's been something seen that can allow the suffering to be there. And it can only be because in that moment there's not that intense grip of the self that feels under attack in that moment. So there's a loosening up, there's a opening space. And so the suffering could be experienced in that space. You know, there could be, you know, I don't know, anything, clients cancelling or being left out of something, or looking at a bank balance, or, you know, or anything, or any of the usual triggers that would previously have sent us deeper perhaps into the film. Or it could just be like that, you know, that wave that comes in from moment to moment. And either way, there's a feeling there, but there's not the desire to fix it. And this is so enormous, because then what happens is the suffering is there. There's no self identity that is leaping around screaming and wailing and rah! It's just there. And things might come to mind. There might be you know, ideas of what's caused that, or there might be a projection of where that might go in the future. But because of that stillness, because the fullness of the suffering is being allowed, it can be, it gives itself up in a way. All the images that would arise with it, or all the thoughts that would arise with it, are also allowed. They don't have to be changed either. They're allowed, and they're in that allowing. The unreality is seen. It's not pursued. They're not pursued as fixed reality. They're just thoughts and concepts arising. None of it has any truth. So the whole thing is coming in, and through that space, through that stillness, an entire reality is giving itself up, which is enormous. It's massive, isn't it? It just doesn't, it's allowed in, so it can be seen fully. It might even be talked about, you know, discussed. There's nothing hidden away, there's nothing defended, there's nothing protected. It's just, whoa, there's this. And it's seen for what it is, really. Transient experience, transient thought, transient emotion, transient tension and contraction. No desire. You know, it's not like that tricky, you know, if I stay around here, then it will be gone. You know, that's the same thing as the whole film, isn't it? That's there's no open stillness in that. Yeah, it gives itself up, which is why suffering is so so pivotal for the undoing of an idea of, or layers upon layers of idea of self. Each layer, a different suffering coming in, and each time staying with it, open to it, talking about it from this perspective, i.e., not from the perspective, you know, of how do I get rid of this? Oh my God, you know, what they've done to me. How do I sort that out? That's just reinforcing the whole idea of it. But talking about it might arise from curiosity, interest, looking at it from different angles. What's constant in it? What's true? And it can't. None of these things can survive when held up to the light, to pure light of still presence. Nothing can survive in that space apart from who we are already. And that just like beams out then from that space, because that's all there is. There's no veil over it. Um, yeah. Okay. Bye.